Once in a while, I like to refresh your mind about the DLCs in VR Masters and Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker. And today we're going to be doing a tier list of all the VR Masters and DLCs. Let's go.
I might act rude. I lost gang members, I can't act cool. I got gang scriptures in my tattoos. I was running from the police in my trap shoes. Posted trying to flip 100, I come back fool.
Very first DLC or VR Master is going to be Killer B. I think Killer B is a very good DLC that you can pick up and has multiple jutsus. I'm going to throw it in B. Comes with some clothes, it comes with some great jutsus as well, and a title, and of course some shinobi boots. So let me know what you think about him as well as our first one. Here we have the Boruto Vr Master. Since recently they did buff Tornado High, I'm going to throw it in C. It's a decent... You know what? I'm mistaken. I'm going to throw this in B. And here's why. Boruto Strike is the fastest attack ultimate. It actually is basically a fourth jutsu on how quick you get it and how much power it does. It's essentially a really good ultimate. I like Tornado High as well. Finishing Rasengan is the only knock on this VR Master that I have. All right, next up we have the Boruto Karma DLC. That's a defense. I honestly think this might be a B as well due to the fact that Boruto stream is not that great. In some people's opinion, it's okay, but I also do not like the Thunderclap because it's really essentially not that great. And it's a surge of water that you can electrocute. They did recently buff it, but they didn't really fix the major issue with it. They just made the water surge faster, but the ultimate is so great, and that's why I'm going to put it in B. Hey, next up, we have Toji, the VR Master. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in D. No, I'm corrected. C, because the meatball is a really good jutsu. Partial expansion is the fastest jutsu in the game, I believe, right now with 7 seconds, and it breaks water pillars and sand shields and guards. Essentially, it's a very underrated jutsu, but the ultimate is kind of annoying because it is a small hit rate and it does take a long time to use. Next up, we have Daedora, and honestly, it's one of the worst VR Masters, even though he is one of my most favorite characters in Naruto and how powerful he is. Essentially, the twin birds are the only good jutsu that he has. C2 Dragon is really not usable and has never really been that great of a jutsu. And the ultimate is real tricky, especially when they boosted the secret technique gauge to be longer to get, and it's a bit finicky. You're probably going to need a jutsu to switch into that ultimate. Hey man, next up we have Gara the Vr Master. I think they did my man Gara dirty, but I'm going to throw him in B because the only jutsu that I do not like from him is Sand Shower. A lot of people ride or die with Sand Shower. It's not one of my favorite jutsus, but it has its perks. It slows down opponents, and it's an AoE effect. Now, I do love Sand Shield, and most people in scrims love Sand Shield. At one time, Grand Sand Mausoleum was the meta for defense, especially Season 1 and a little bit in Season 2. With that Kamui Grand Sand Mausoleum combination was running rampant, so I'm gonna throw him in B right now. Next up, we have the Might Guy DLC, and the Might Guy DLC is near perfection. Youthful Roar, Dynamic Entry, the 8 Gates. There's really essentially a great DLC. The only thing that's really not that great is the items that we get along with the DLC. And essentially, Youthful Roar is fun and great and everything, but most people don't run it. It's more of a gimmick or gadget jutsu. Hakuchon, the DLC that is essentially the most annoying for all types. I'm going to go ahead and throw a Haku in... man. Haku and A makes sense. I do like the Icicle Swallow, and I love the 1,000 Needles, and the Crystal Ice Mirrors is the fastest range ultimate. But again, the range ultimate for that is essentially not the best because it won't kill unless they are already a little bit hurt. And sometimes it's a bit finicky where it takes too much time to load up, and people can just hop out of your range. And essentially, if you're in the sky and you use it, they'll just pitfall and maybe even be able to save themselves. So I'm going to put an A. It has its perks, and it comes with 2 outfits and the hair. 2 hairs, so I think it's a really good bang for your buck DLC. Hashirama Senju. This is actually a good DLC, but it doesn't really have that firepower that we want. It was a great DLC for Season 1. Wood Dragon is a big meta jutsu right now, especially the Sharingan Uchiha Shuriken users. I just don't think Buddha Hands is really effective in any way. I think it's a gimmick gadget jutsu as well, and the Buddha Hands 1,000 hands is a bit too long for me, and people can just run away from it. It is a bit meta on base scrims, but that's essentially just a gimmick gadget ultimate as well. The Hinata VR Master is actually really good. I'm gonna throw her in B. For VR Master, she gives you some really meta jutsus. Byakugan had a crazy buff, and then we have the air palm that a lot of people run, especially on flag, to go ahead and break them down and not be able to use jutsus. And then the ultimate, everyone that's ever been a combat medic has used Twin Lion Fist. There's really no drawbacks for this one. It just doesn't have that firepower or that big damage output that we like to see for other healer DLCs and VR Masters. The Heroes in DLC used to be mainly a B, but I'm gonna go ahead and throw him in A because every single one of his jutsus have been meta at one point. Right now, everyone hates the Dragon Bullet, especially because of the new patch. Everyone has used Dragon Flame Bomb essentially in scrims or in regular gameplay. It's one of the best jutsus for defenses, especially to knock people back and turn that burn damage on. And at one time, Reaper Death Seal in scrims was really effective, and I honestly loved it when it was more of a universally used, and also really boosts that respawn time when you use it, but it does have a slow cooldown, so I can't put it in S right now. My least favorite DLC of all time has to be Ino. I honestly hate Ino Palm Sage, so I'm gonna throw it in C right now, just because essentially I hate Ino Palm Sage. I hate the Mind Transfer Jutsu, and I hate the ultimate. Now the ultimate is the reason why it's not in D, because it still is very used and it lowers a secret technique and you get it a lot of times. But Ino Palm Sage should never have been brought into the game. Mind Transfer Jutsu is a gimmick gadget jutsu as well, where you really just troll people with it if they're Needle Jizo or petrifying, or you can catch them off guard and pitfall them. My Lord and Savior Itachi Uchiha, the Akatsuki version, the range version, we're going to go ahead and throw them in A. The only knockback for this is the Scarlet Claw. It is a very fast jutsu. It just doesn't do anything other than do a moderate damage, but we love Amaterasu. It is probably one of the most universal, most used range jutsu of all time, other than probably Majestic. Amaterasu will take you out of any animations. It'll turn a burn effect. It'll take you out of Susanoo armor. Essentially, it used to actually take you out of Water Pillar and Sand Shield, so it was really broken at one time. The burn is crazy as well, and everyone has used Totsuka Blade at one time. Totsuka Blade will also seal you and make your respawn time a little bit longer, and it's a 2-star duration to get. I essentially love Totsuka Blade, especially because you can get multi-kills with it, because the longsword is an extended version of it, basically a 2-step version of the ultimate. The man who could have soloed Madara himself if he wanted to, reanimated Itachi Uchiha. We're going to put him in S. This guy is one of the most broken DLCs of all time. You can grab this for healers right now. You get Tsukiyomi, which we all know about Tsukiyomi. It slows you down immensely. You can also do multi-hits while you're under the Genjutsu, and then when you break out, it will do a huge damage to you. Then, the most broken jutsu in all of Shinobi Striker history, besides one more other jutsu, that Yasaka beats, where it literally will track you, do 360 no-scopes on you, where you literally have to jump off the wall and hope to God that doesn't track you off of that. It'll even track you after your substitution. And then the ultimate, right? The Tsunami is it's literally a crime. It is one of the most broken jutsus of all time, and that is why it's going to be an S. Essentially, you get some great items with it as well. I have to put Jiraiya in A. It's a great DLC. Toad Oil is pretty much used. It used to be meta at one point. Needle Jizo is still to this day used in everyday scrims. I see it literally every time I watch a Twitch stream of people playing on base battle. It's a great jutsu. Bring Down the House at one point was also meta in scrims. The only thing bad about it and why it's not an S, it's gonna have the toe just does not show up. It has a house call. It's like a rain check. Doesn't come out. You waste an ultimate and doesn't even show up. Kabuto is interesting. I'm gonna throw him in B. We all use sleep. It's meta. Everyone has used sleep in some way, shape, or form. Chakra Scalpel just recently got a buff to make it even faster and track better. Cellular Activation is actually a really good jutsu, especially if you're a combat medic, that allows you to self-heal rapidly and keep going over time. Essentially, it doesn't have the firepower of other healer DLCs or VR Masters, but it's a really great VR Master to grab. The DMS Kakashi range DLC. I don't have enough good things to say about this DLC. It is solid all around. It doesn't have the crazy firepower of other DLCs, especially in the range category, but you do get Kamui. Oh yeah, and then regular Kamui lightning blade. Oh wait, I forgot one more. Kamui shuriken, the great Susanoo ultimate that literally every range uses it, especially on base scrims. I love it, you love it, everyone's used every single jutsu from him. He just doesn't have that meta jutsu anymore. People really don't use Kamui like that, especially in scrims, and I use that on my basis if really competitive players are using it. Now I do know they do get a little bit overreactive and use the rinse repeat method, but if it's working, why fix it, you know? Regular Kakashi Vr Master has Sharingan, so we're gonna go ahead and throw it in B. Sharingan, Lightning Blade, and Kamui. Kamui is really not that great of an ultimate. Now it does have its quirks, and I really do love using it. It's really fun. I don't really use Lightning Blade as much as I did when it was just beta coming out of the game, but Sharingan is an everyday usage for me, so I'm gonna have to throw it in B. It has my respect. Sharingan is the most used attack jutsu other than Uchiha Shuriken and Dynamic Entry. Hockey is hard to rate. I'm gonna put it in A. It arguably could be an S, and I would give it an A+, maybe even put it at the front of all these in A, because we do have Reverse Scale or Imperial Wrath, where that jutsu just takes away your substitution and allows you to get comboed really easily, and then you have the Karma Linchpin, which allows you to suck up any jutsu and get your ult gauge faster. And when it first came out, people were getting their ult like 6 times a game. So essentially it allows you to have super armor as well, where people can't hit you out of that animation. A lot of people use it for flag running, especially in scrims. And then the ultimate is an instant kill essentially. So where is this falling short of? The ultimate is a bit finicky, and the new patch to the Karma Linchpin that allows you to suck up the jutsus and get your ult faster really is just a soup gap for people using it to super armor through jutsus as they're flag running. Most people use it on base too, but with that nerf to it, it doesn't make it as overpowered as any of the DLCs and VR Masters that we're going to put in S. Kasame Hoshigaki is a really good VR Master. I'm going to put him in B. Water Shark is really a cool jutsu that allows you to hit people through buildings and take away their jutsus, and now it gives you a little bit of your health back. And then we have Subterranean, which allows you to gain health as you're under the ground, but you can't grab flags or bases anymore underneath the ground. When it was meta, when people were using Sub T and Snake Thrust, it had a shorter cooldown, but they buffed it a little bit to where now you have to wait 20 something seconds, but essentially at one point it was like 16, 15 seconds, which could be spammed pretty easily. And then the ultimate Super Water Shark, you get it really fast. It goes through Water Pillar, goes through Sand Shield, and it'll basically rip through anyone. Is Konan the only girl that's not a healer in Shinobi Strikers? Hey, way to be equal there, my guy, Shinobi Strikers. All right, so I'm gonna throw Konan. Every jutsu that she has is very usable. There's nothing wrong with Konan. I gotta put her in B, and I see B, and I'm like, dang, there's a lot of things in B. There's not a lot of VR Masters that are bad. Paper Shield is really useful. People use it on base. People use it on combat. People use it in the pit. There's really nothing wrong with Paper Shield. Now, Konan Wings is a bit of a gimmick jutsu, fun to use because it does give that ninja tool back immediately, but you can also send out those paper projectiles, and everyone is using Konan's ult, the papers, because they seals jutsus. So a lot of people use that in seals ultimates. So a lot of people use that to prevent really OP ultimates or jutsus to come allowed. Like sleep is really important to prevent. So Konan is a really good VR Master to grab. Is it just me, or was the Konohamaru DLC underwhelming? Kind of boring. Essentially what we thought we were gonna get. The only thing that I really liked about the Konoha DLC is essentially the new staff that came with defense. It's essentially very overpowered and probably is gonna become meta in combat. The combos are ridiculous. The jutsus are kind of and not really fun to use. The Madara DLC has the most important range jutsu of all time, and that is Majestic Destroyer Flame, which essentially is the foundation to most range builds, especially in 2022. Now, the ultimate is a bit weird, but it did have a glitch at one point where if you're on the side of the wall, it would instant kill as soon as you activated it, which is kind of cool at the time. Now, Burning Ash jutsu is also really fun to use because you can get a stun animation, and at one point you could grab bases with that, or even grab the flag with it. It was a really nice flag running jutsu, but right now it's essentially just a gimmick fun jutsu. So I'm going to throw it an A. It used to be a pretty broken DLC. All right, another really broken healer DLC, but it's not as good as the reanimated Itachi DLC. I think Purple Lightning is a really good jutsu, and I also really like the Limbo clones, but the ultimate really makes it where it needs to be an A. Now, the two jutsus are above average, I would say. They're pretty good and pretty fun to use, but the ultimate is absolutely broken, especially it leaves you one shot, and you can get multiple kills off of it. I've seen multiple squad wipes with that ultimate. Honestly, I would give Mei a B+ to an A-. Mei is a really solid DLC. I don't know why she's a healer, though. She is definitely not a healer in the anime, the manga. She's essentially kind of a range fighter with her lava style Kekkei Genkai and also her steam Kekkei Genkai. I really love her as a DLC. It's pretty fun to use her, and lava style is really fun to use, but it doesn't have that firepower as Yasaka beads, and we know Water Pillar does its thing. It's one of the most meta jutsus of meta jutsus, and the ultimate again is really fun to use, and it's not overly broken. Okay, so now we have the Minato DLC. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Minato DLC at all. There's nothing essentially making it not S. Well, that's not exactly true. The jutsus that he comes with are not groundbreaking. You get Flying Rajin that will allow you to teleport to point A to point B, and you have about 5 seconds in the interval, and it will boost your defense after you use it. Then you have Flying Rajin level 2, which is essentially you have to hit a kunai, and it'll teleport to where that kunai hits, and then you throw a Rasengan on it. And that's why it's an A, because those two jutsus are above average, and I would say almost close to broken. At one point, Flying Rajin was completely broken. Level 3 is the meta for attack types, especially in scrims. So A is a really good place. I'd say he's even A+. All right. This is the most broken VR Master. I'm going to throw Mitsuki in S. Ripple is essentially one of the best jutsus for gimmick setups that you will ever see. Most of these setups for defenses I see is a ripple into a paper tag, or a ripple into a thunderclap, or a ripple into an ultimate. And Snake Thrust essentially has been meta off and on again for defenses in scrims and competitive play or just casual play. Snake Thrust will break your guard, it breaks Water Pillar, it breaks Sand Shields, and both of those jutsus make you recover health, and they have a pretty moderate range to them, especially for defenses. And then you have Sage Mode. Sage Mode allows you to recover all your health quickly, and it's not a slow ultimate to get. You can probably get it at least 2 to 3 times a game, especially if you're in the pit. And if you played a Mitsuki in the Hero Festival, you know that it's going to be a little bit of a problem, especially that spinning triangle or spinning heavy attack. And let's be honest, Nagato wasn't really that great of a DLC. Essentially, he would be C+ to me, but I really do like Chikashoto, so I'm going to throw him in B, but he really deserves to be a C+ because he was kind of a letdown for what our expectations were for a Rinnegan Uzumaki DLC. Tell me I'm wrong without telling me I'm wrong, you know? Even though you're the main character, your VR Master is only a C, essentially because he only gives us really a good jutsu. And that happens to be his most famous line, Rasengan, which is one of the most broken attack jutsus that I'm surprised it's really not as meta as it should be, because it will literally put anyone half health. And if you had a Uchiha Shuriken, you'll keep them in place after you use the Rasengan, and then you can just combo them up, and it's essentially just like a 30-hit combo that they never even had a chance to get out of. And let's say they do get out of it, it'll slow them down. Rasen Shuriken is super easy to dodge, and then the ultimate is essentially just a walking waste. The 6-path Naruto DLC is kind of useful. I'll give it a B. True-Sting Orbs are super annoying to play, and Massive Rasen, Shuriken, the ultimate, whatever it is, essentially is tracking you essentially like a Yasaka beads, where you will get hit and it will go through giant buildings, and it's really annoying to fight. The other jutsu is kind of useless, so we're gonna put it in B, but I'll give it a B+. All right, we gotta throw Naruto up here in A+. There's really nothing wrong with him. He's just not as broken as these two. You have Kurama Impact, Rasen Rampage, and KCM, and you get some other great stuff with him, but these are really good DLC. If you need a DLC to grab for your first one, I recommend Naruto from Boruto. And Neji is a tough one. Neji has a really good Hazan Strike. Body Blow is essentially pretty useful, and 8 trigrams for a while there was meta for base. So I'm going to throw in an A just because 8 trigrams is a little bit fell off. Body Blow isn't as used as much, but Hazan Strike is forever going. Obito is a subpar DLC. Both of his jutsus are usable, but his ultimate is so trash and so not even close to usable, it's ridiculous. Conway's fun. It boosts your attack power. Not people really, I don't really use it anymore, and I haven't seen it used by most defenses lately. But Uchiha Flame is always going to be meta, especially in scrims. I've never seen any team argue, don't use that, especially no, they're going to use that 99% of the time. Now, Inoki and Obito were on my you have to grab these DLCs, and that's only because they're good team DLCs. But overall, if you're playing by yourself or only playing with a couple people and only playing for fun, they're not good DLCs because they give you boosts to other allies' jutsus. And if you're trying to fight someone by yourself, it really is not that good of a DLC to grab, especially Inoki when he gives you Heavy Boulder, Lightning Boulder, and his ultimate is fun to use, but essentially it's kind of messed up. It should have shot out more of like a cannon instead of more like a square that slowly trickles over to you. The Orochimaru DLC is probably one of the worst ranged DLCs, arguably one of the worst DLCs of all time. We should have got like Rashomon with it or something, but instead we got a pretty good ultimate with the summoning jutsu reanimation. The Shadow Snakes are not that great, and Great Wind Breach is essentially kind of just a gimmick jutsu. Man, Pain is a great VR master to grab, especially when he came out right before season 1 in the beta, where you had to have special access to have him, and he'd give you the Akatsuki Cave. Universal Pool was fun. Almighty Push was absolutely ridiculous, and then Planetary Devastation would suck up people from half across the map and kill them immediately. It was a really broken ultimate that I'm glad they fixed in the same month. But it was really fun during that month where you could just suck up people from half across the map. Planetary Devastation is one of the most fun ultimates in the game. Universal Pool is used by pretty much everyone and allows you to extend those combos at the end of your combo. You can pull people close instead of pitfalling or hard knocking, whatever you want to call it. And then Almighty Push breaks guards, water pillars, sand shields, and essentially the whole 9 yards. Sai is a really good VR master, especially for ranges that have not so many ranged VR masters that are up there. I really like him because of the birds. I like him because of the lions. His ultimate is super fast, and it does have ink construction on all these jutsus except for the lions, I'm pretty sure, but it does slow you down after you get hit by it. And if you have lightning net lions, my favorite jutsu combination of all time, it's really fun to use. I think he's a quality VR master, and I'm glad he's in the game. I believe this one is the War Arc Sakura, and arguably I think War Arc Sakura DLC comes down to D. Some of her jutsus are really interesting to use to boost your allies, but her ultimate I thought it was going to be a bit more powerful. It's kind of a letdown, and I hope they buff her soon because she has the potential to be a really good DLC. Now, I will put regular Sakura, the VR Master, as the arguably the best healer VR Master there is. You have Cellular Extraction, Cherry Blossom Clash, and then her ultimate regeneration is essentially just long distance before long distance was a thing, and allows you to also bring back dead allies quicker from respawn, which I like. I think it's pretty funny, especially if people are trying to change their classes like I did Sixer. The Sword of VR Master, the only thing I like about her is the ultimate. The Uchiha Shuriken allows you to heal yourself and your teammates and do a lot of damage to essentially hit multiple targets and kill them, or just one in-game. YouTube, in-game, don't demonetize me. So I don't like the healer jutsu that just, I think it's green hold, that you put down healing tags that is a slow heal over time. I do like Crimson Drizzle a little bit. It's pretty fun to use, especially subbing and getting rid of that substitution, but it's not enough to put it in B. Might be the only DLC that gives you 4 jutsus, I'm not mistaken, but I'm gonna have to put Sasuke from Boruto right there in A. Flame Lightning, Onyx Chidori. What else does he give you? Wait a minute, I gotta think about this. Onyx Chidori, Flame Lightning, Rinnegan Switch. See, there's so many jutsu that he gives you, and then his ultimate Takamazushi no Kami was really fun to use. You get 4 jutsus, and now you're set for rangers. I think he's one of the better range DLCs, especially get him right now. Sasuke Uchiha, the regular range VR master, there's nothing wrong with him, but there's nothing right about him. We have Chidori, we have Fireball Jutsu, and Kirin. They're pretty basic jutsus overall. Fireball Jutsu is the better out of the 3. Personally, if you're playing defense and you're playing by yourself, the Last Battle Sasuke DLC for defenses is the one that you want to get. Susanoo armor is something I wanted in the game since the get-go. Now that I have it, I hate it and I hate using it, but essentially there's always should have been a Susanoo ribcage in the game, and that is exactly what it does. And I really do like the flying thrust. It allows you to Rinnegan switch with something, the kunai, and then do a Chidori straight to the person's chest, get rent a pussy as I like to call it. But the ultimate, even though it's buffed recently, personally, he's ultimately very trash. Shikamaru is not your favorite VR Master healer. Let's go ahead and put that there. I don't even know why he is a healer slash support, but I'm gonna throw him in C because yes, you love using shadow stitching. Yes, you love using shadow strangle. You love using shadow pull, but you're not using that in a serious game unless you're playing in the pit. Let's be honest. All right, next up we have Shisui. Shisui is one of the most broken DLCs that we've gotten. Uchiha Shuriken changed the meta forever for attackers. It's a 9-second cooldown jutsu that allows you to extend your combos and steal subs and get rid of jutsus for a little bit. And that essentially is a broken jutsu. And then you have Halo Dance, which is a non-stick jutsu where you can just push the button and it'll do everything for you and it'll lock their substitution as well. Then we get Swift Step, which was meta on meta right now. And if you're in scrims, you're in the SPL, you're in Flea Boys League, you can't use time space hop that I didn't even mention about last battle Sasuke. Swift Step is going to be that meta for those attack types, and defenses have been having struggles keeping up with them. So I think it's the most broken DLCs for attacker, and I haven't even mentioned Koto Matsukami, which is literally an infinite subs for you and your allies, and then you reverse the controls in the second phase. Tamari's a solid DLC. People weren't hyped about her, but she's a good range DLC. She gives you 3 jutsus that you arguably could use. A lot of people do use the ferret and calm scrim battles and competitive matches or just casual play. I'm not a huge fan of the tornadoes. They're fun to use. They're more of a gimmick to set up combos, and everyone is running that tornado because it really does suck you up, and that allows you to combo into those tornadoes. And the tornado, I mean the giant one. Tobirama Senju. Essentially, we just got one of his jutsus really buffed. I'm gonna throw him in B. Tana Paper Bomb for a long time was meta for ranges. I think all of season 1, if I'm not mistaken, and a lot of season 2. And then we have Water Dragon Jutsu, which people still use to this day. Flame Lightning and Water Dragon to get rid of that flag carrier and make him drop it. It essentially is a very quiet jutsu that will track you really well, and it's kind of annoying to be slowed down by Water Dragon. Now recently just buffed Severing Wave, which up close will do a lot of damage to the opponent, and it hits a wide range, and it goes from left to right or right to left, and it's directional and quick. Nervous Rupture, Heavenly Foot of Pain if you're in defeat, and then we have Long Distance Healing. I gotta put Long Distance Healing up there at B+, arguably A-. She's the best healer DLC that you can grab just because of her ultimate. Yamato is just a solid VR Master. I know there's a lot of characters in B, but we're just gonna disregard that. You have Wood Strangle, which is a really good combo set or upper, and it will get rid of that Susanoo armor. And then you have the Minecraft Building Dome Wall, which will protect you once from Fireball Jutsu, or if you need to protect yourself from getting pulled. A lot of people use that for Dome Wall, and it will do damage on contact. And then you have the trees, which was meta for a lot of season 2 in Calm Scrims, which will essentially just trap you inside of a tree and lower your defense to your basically one shot. I want to argue with you about Zabuza being an S rank DLC, but essentially I know that's not going to happen. So Zabuza has Hidden Mist Jutsu, which is the meta of meta since they buffed it. Then we have Water Prison, which if you know a Taiga from Calm Scrim's Water Prison Jutsu in his hands is essentially just a death sentence. He will put you in a water prison, it'll get rid of your substitution and lowers your defense and keeps you still, so you're pretty much going to die. And then you have Demon Hunter, which everyone in the pit, or if you've ever faced anyone in NWL, knows what Demon Hunter it is. Allows you to give super armor, travel distance, and gain health back after hit. Last but definitely not least, we have Rock Lee. I want to put Rock Lee in A. I really do, but I do know that we only going to use Leaf Rising Wind, and Leaf Flash is really not that usable, and people use 7 Heavenly Breaths instead of one of the Gates of Limit. So I'm gonna put him in B, but I really do like Rock Lee, and I love using him in Hero Festival because his combos are so unique in how he moves and essentially really fast. But we're not rating them essentially how they do in Hero Festival, but it is a kind of a point of reference to look at. I do love Leaf Rising Wind and his traveling distance, but Leaf Flash is essentially kind of boring to use and not many people have ever really ran it. You know, normally I look at these DLC tier lists or VR Master tier lists and I'm like, what have I done? I've ruined this. Nobody's gonna take me seriously now. Arguably, I gotta say, this is a really good tier list. I think this is pretty straightforward. I want to give a huge shout out to Joe6376610 for making this. I did not make this, so if you want to see it, I'll put down a tier list maker so you can make one of your own and send it to me on Twitter, and my Twitter will be down there in the description as well.